Hello, everyone, and a warm welcome to Digital Dialogues powered by CXO Digital Pulse. We are celebrating Social Media Day, and we have a very special guest with us today, Sakshi Shukla, who's harnessing power of social media to create the voices of tomorrow. She's a content strategist and an executioner, and she believes that change is happening, and so do we. Hello, Sakshi. Welcome on board with us today.
Thanks so much for the lovely and sweet introduction. I'm so excited to be here.
Great. So, Sakshi, to start with, how can social media platform be utilized by CXOs and entrepreneurs to establish and enhance their personal brands?
For sure. Um, there are just so many ways. I think, let me just begin with saying this. I don't want to give a straightforward answer that do this, do that. I just
Mhm.
think there is no limit to social media. That is why I work in this field because I'm constantly amazed and inspired by how much power creating content carries, right? Like a single post could have a ripple effect. So the only thing, when I consult leaders, founders, entrepreneurs, the only thing that I tell them is what do you really want to say? Like, you should deep in your heart know what change you want to bring. And then there are thousands of ways you can use social media to do that, right? But I think if I had to give a step by step framework, it begins with one, know what problem you're solving. Like, what is it that you are trying to change in the world? You know, are you trying to get more women into leadership? Are you trying to get people to take their health seriously? Are you trying to promote your business, right? Are you trying to help people transform from X to Y? And what is that X and what is that Y? So everything begins with what is it that you're aiming to do with social media. If you don't know that, if you don't know your why, I mean, Simon Sinek says this, like, know your why. Everything begins from there. And the biggest mistake I see people making on social media, even entrepreneurs and founders, is they do it just for the sake of it. Oh, hey, it's a marketing channel, let's just do it. But I don't think it's a marketing channel. I think it's a I mean, I don't have a word for that, but it's a loyalty channel. Like all of social media is about loyalty, right? And the way founders, entrepreneurs, CXOs, executives should think about it is what can I do to bring loyalty into people? What can I say that makes people loyal towards my personal brand? Right. And there's this huge misconception that I recently wrote a post on is people think that personal brand is about me. That is the like it's such a misleading term. It is not about you. 80% of your personal brand is about other people. Does it feel personal to your audience, right? So for example, when people read my content, they're not coming in there to read, oh, how great Sakshi is, or what she's, how she's crushing at work, or what are the clients she's getting at. It's not about that. It's about what am I giving them? What are they getting out of my content? So your personal brand is not just about you. It's about, do other people feel understood? Does it feel personal to them, right? And the reason we use the word personal here is because it's important to bring your personality onto the table. People relate to people. That is the truth. If I trust you, I'm going to buy from you even if your product is a little expensive. I'm not going to buy from somebody else because I'm like, no, I trust the product this person is giving. They know their stuff, right? So a mix of knowing your why, knowing who your audience is, what change are you trying to bring for them, and then bringing your personality into the table. I mean the third is the most common mistake I see people making. They're like, let's just follow the best practices, oh, hooks are working, let's just do hooks, right? Like great hooks, right? Copy paste it from other people. And there are millions of playbooks, go viral with this, go viral with that. You will not believe it, I rarely follow hooks. For all the people that I work with, all the brands that I work with, we rarely use hooks. We're like, we know ourselves, we know what brand identity we have, and we're going to design hooks for ourselves, right? Why blend in when you're meant to stand out? So bringing your personality on the table and not being afraid to do that is really, really essential. So I think the way CXOs and entrepreneurs and builders and creators should approach social media is, it's a channel, it's a distribution channel, it's a loyalty building channel. What is it that I can uniquely do or uniquely say? And whenever tell this to people, they're like, but can you give us a framework for that? And I'm like, there is no framework. The only solution is go out there and start doing it. You know, let me just give you my example. I've been creating content for 2 years, and it is now that I'm almost kind of pivoting or almost changing the things that I've been talking about, because it's a journey. You learn along the way, right? You understand your audience better, they understand you better. But it's always necessary to have a few goals in mind, to know what you are trying to do, and also be open to experimentation and let the journey teach you. Yeah.
Definitely. And I think that's where the main challenge comes, I believe, Sakshi, that when people have to understand what true themselves they are and how they
Yeah.
want to put themselves out there. Because once that is established, then it's all about connecting with the right set of
Yeah.
people and building that bridge with them. These are the two key aspects, but definitely the first one is the key challenge or say hindrance that may take some time for people to understand and identify for
Hmm.
themselves.
Yeah. I think for the first challenge of like where you don't know who you are, or what your brand identity is going to look like, I have a sort of a very simple framework about that, which is just sit just sit and assume, like sit with yourself and just assume that you're in an interview, like a publisher is interviewing you, or a journalist is interviewing you, and you're like a star, right? Like put yourself on a very spotlight position in your head, and let the journalist ask you, what is the reputation that you want to leave behind, you know like, or what is the reputation that you're trying to build in the next 10 years? Just assume that you're sitting there and a journalist is asking you. It's such a big question, and it is such an overwhelming question that it makes you question your whole identity. Like it's like it'll make you think like, oh my god, am I do I really even truly know myself, right? And when I have done this exercise with people, some people know the answer instantly. And those are the founders that I see are the most committed. They're getting insane results already. And that's why, when you know your why, everything else falls into place, right? But if you're struggling to find your identity, just think about, what is the reputation that I want to build for the next 5 years? What do I want to be known as? Do I want to be known as someone that helps people build better careers? Do I want to be known as someone that helps people save XYZ amount of money in SaaS? Whatever, it could be super broad, it could be
Mhm.
super niched, right? But what is that one sentence that kind of defines, what you're going to stand for the next 5 years? You don't necessarily have to stand for it for the next 5 years. I mean, of course, people change, they evolve, you might change jobs, you might, start something totally new. But this question kind of forces you to put your priorities into place. And so, like, my
So,
personal brand is not just, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
yeah. So, Sakshi, just continuing this thing that when you have identified yourself and your whys are very clear, but how do you help them, maintain a consistent and authentic voice across the social media platforms when they're building their personal brand?
Interacting with your audience is a very intimate thing, right? And the brands that do it successfully are very focused on three things. They either give information, they either excite people, or they do both, right? So that's why memes work. Like there are some people that are completely like doing memes, right? Um, Elon Musk, for example, right? I don't think he needs to talk about Tesla to actually promote it. He just puts out weird memes and people relate to him, right? So his
Mhm.
personal brand is all about, he doesn't want to like even though people have put him on a pedestal, he wants to come out as someone who's just like, hey, I'm just another guy having fun, right? His personality is all about, I want to have fun building things, right? Like he's building, SpaceX and he's having fun with that. Something which we think is super serious because it is, right? But he's totally changed the narrative around himself. So he intuitively knows what he wants to do, right? He intuitively knows that memes are his thing. Coming to how to be super authentic with your voice and all of this, I think one thing that helps is getting feedback. So, for example, if you are an entrepreneur or a CXO who's looking to build their personal brand, I would say go and collect feedback from 10 people, your family, your friends, your spouse, your colleagues, your employees. Just ask them, how do you perceive me as, right? Define me in 3 words, something like that. And then the
Mhm.
most common words that are used for you by people, that is who you are. So a client of mine did this exercise and the word strategic came out. Like many people said, you're very strategic, when you approach products. Somebody said you're very strategic when you approach decision making. The word strategic was repeated at least 4 or 5 times. That means she is strategic. That is her tone. And people like that about her, right? So the best way, instead of sitting and thinking, who am I, is just go out there and ask people. 10 people, 20 people, the more people, the better. But yeah, like don't overdo it and see the pattern that comes out, right? So if the word confident is coming out a lot, um your personal brand is around confidence. And I'm not saying that should be your niche. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that should be your tone, right? If people
Mhm.
think you're super funny, maybe you should leverage memes. Just maybe. That is a part of your personality. Yeah.
Okay. And are there any specific social media platforms that are more suitable or say effective for CXOs and entrepreneurs to build their personal brand, and like why is it so? If you are to name some.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think personally, I believe that LinkedIn is the top, of course. I mean, I think that was an expected answer. But apart from LinkedIn, I find YouTube really fascinating. So, the two things that I've observed about LinkedIn and YouTube is your followers don't go away. Like, they're extremely loyal. Like, they're extremely loyal to you. I don't know why that is. I think it's just the way the platform is function. And a good thing that I will tell you is if you go on your LinkedIn feed ever, you'll see the caption always pops up first and then the media asset, image, video, poll, whatever, right?
Mhm.
If you go on Instagram, the media asset is first, the caption is below, right?
Yep.
Um, or the reel is there and then the caption is below. So LinkedIn as a platform prioritizes your thought process first and then the media, because people, that is what people are there for. They want to read it, right? Even though different kinds of formats work, that's just how the platform is function. Instagram is more like, what are you showing me? It's more about show. So it's very media focused, reels focused, interaction focused, right? Coming to YouTube, like, and let's not compare YouTube to this theory that I just shared about, because YouTube also has captions below, but the length in YouTube, right? And the way the screen is structured. Um, it's a video platform end to end. And there is no better way to build trust than videos, right? There is no better way to sit and really look at people and talk. It's super time intensive. I get that. But um, I mean, a few examples that I would give is of Noah Kagan. I mean, I think he's done YouTube brilliantly, right?
Mhm.
And he's the founder of AppSumo. I don't know how many $1 million, yeah, $1 million he's worth, but his content game is just so strong and it builds amazing familiarity. So I think these two platforms, I truly believe, are designed for entrepreneurs and CXOs. And I think if I had to name a third platform, it would be podcasts, like hands
Okay.
down podcasts. Podcasts are all about people are giving you time. Like, if somebody is listening to your podcast of 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, they really value you and what you have to say, right? And same for YouTube. If somebody is watching a 20-minute video, right, or a 40-minute or a 1 hour video, they really, really value you. And you have captured their attention and retained it, in a world where attention spans are going down and down. All right. So I
Mhm.
think that even though these two platforms, podcasts and YouTube, are time intensive, they're worth it. And they're a long term game. That is how I see it. But yeah, I mean, start with LinkedIn and then move to other platforms. And also, do these platforms align with your goals, right? That is also something that is really necessary to understand. And the way to sort of do it is what is your conversion, like what kind of conversion are you looking for? Are you just looking to grow your following, or are you looking for some form of conversion, right?
Mhm.
LinkedIn, YouTube, podcasts, all three do this. Yeah.
Okay. Great. And what would be your advice to individuals who are just starting to build their personal brands using social media as a medium?
Have fun. That is all I say. Social media is too fun to be taken seriously, like, really. um doesn't mean you shouldn't be strategic with it. Like, my advice first would be define content buckets. I mean, actually, no, first define your why. Know your why. Have an elevator pitch for your why. Can you define your existence on social media in 30 seconds to someone, right? And it shouldn't be like very jargony. It should be plain, simple, relatable, understandable, right?
Mhm.
Then come to your content buckets. What are the 5 types of content buckets that your content is going to fall into, right? Depending on your niche, depending on your industry. And then comes your calendar, right? So the easiest way to ideate is, what are the most common questions people ask you all the time in your business, whether it's your customers, whether it's your stakeholders, whether it's your employees, if you're a manager, what are people asking you around? People figure it out. Why are you doing what you're doing? And then it's very easy to lose your loyalty, right? So if you are starting out, start with a lot of self awareness. Start with, what value are you giving? What is your why? What are your content buckets going to look like? What is your content calendar going to look like? What cadence suits you? um I would suggest 3 times a week is like the best cadence to begin. That is the best place to start. And then, of course, have a lot of fun, interact with people, go DM people. I mean,
Mhm.
yes, I agree, CXOs do not have the time, but I would say make time, because the ROI that comes within a year or 2 years or 3 years is so immense. I mean, in 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 January, one of my clients, a founder that we work with, he got a reply back from an investor that he had been trying to reach. And how that happened was, like, this guy came and commented on his post.
Okay.
So, like, if you think about the ROI, this is
Mhm.
an investor that is a dream investor for my client. And we were trying to, like, figure our heads, should we email them? Should we reach out some other way? Should we figure out if there is a VA that we can reach out to? None of that was needed because the content did the job, right? So all the 8 months of creating content paid off with one single piece of content, right? um and this is an investor that is going to invest god knows how much money, right? So the ROI is immeasurable, right?
Sure. And when
And
Sakshi, these check marks that you have mentioned, people do initially
Yeah.
start with. But they see that the media, the platform is getting flooded with many and many people coming out, having
Y-
that self realization about themselves, the kind of genre
Yeah.
they're going to fall. It's numerous now. There are definitely
Yeah.
many followers, but there are many content creators also with
Yeah.
these entrepreneurs. How would you advise to distinguish themselves? Because I think distinguishness is something which is going to be key to lead them their way.
Yeah. Don't follow best practices. That is the way to distinguish yourself. The more best practices you follow, the more you're blending in, right? Everybody is telling you write a hook using here's how I went from X to Y. I literally just said that earlier. But I didn't
Mhm.
say use that as a hook. I said use it to realize what change you want to bring, right? If you follow best practices, you are going to blend in, right? That is, and I'm not saying like ditch them all. No, some of them are really good. Like formatting should be good, readability should be there, right? But you don't have to do what everybody else is doing because then your own voice is lost, right?
Mhm.
Another spicy take that I will give you is it's a misconception that social media platforms are flooded
Okay.
because just I mean to everybody who's listening this, do the exercise about your why that I just said, right? What is it that you want to create content on and what do you want to stand for? And then sit back and think how many people you know that are killing it in that exact same niche. Like just sit back and think and you will realize how huge the gap is. Like how freaking huge the gap is. The challenge is how do you get people to pay attention to what you're saying? That is the challenge, right? You're already standing out. The challenge is how do I tell people, hey, I'm worth listening to, right? And that is where most people end up following best practices because they work, right? The more hooks you use and all of that. But then they just like, they don't stop, right? So it has to be a good mix of how do I attract attention? And at the same time, making sure that your own original voice is not getting lost. And you are saying things fearlessly. That is so important. I mean, if you're not being bold on social media, you'd rather not be on social media, right? Because it's all about saying things that have not been said before because there is so much that we don't talk about. I mean, one of the topics that I'm going to be targeting is women in business and women in tech, right? And it may seem like, oh, everybody's talking about it. Like, I mean, if you think about it, if I tell this to anybody, they're like, but so many people are talking about it. Sakshi, what are you going to be doing unique? I will let my content tell you because there are so many nuances that people miss.
Great. Thanks, Sakshi. With this, we come to the end of our conversation, and I'm sure the viewers have a lot of key takeaways, especially understanding and identifying who they are,
Yeah,
having their whys being checked out, and doing special homework for themselves to understand what is their niche or the broader aspect, and definitely follow or unfollow the best practices, something that they need to identify for sure.
for sure. Yeah. I mean, I
Great.
would say this is something when I say I piss people off, but it's necessary. Best practices just means you're following a playbook. And when you're following a playbook, you'll end up getting the same results, right? I mean, yeah, in a way, people would be like, well, what's wrong in that? I want 100K followers. Yeah, you
Mhm.
go get 100K followers, but then your unique voice is not there,
Okay.
right? What about that? Yeah.
Definitely. Thanks a ton for your expert opinions, and it was a
Thank
pleasure
you.
talking to you, Sakshi.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.